What's up, everybody? Larry here. Arm day today. Yes, I'm still training arms every training day. And this is just another week where I have an arm day that's just kind of fell in my lap. So that's what we're going to do this morning. Are we going to do a lot of volume? No, we're going to keep it kind of medium. But my medium is very different. I think medium volume is around about 10 to 15 sets. And, you know, the higher volume is around 15 to 20 sets for biceps and triceps. So that's just me. But in any event, we ain't going to get into all that. But what we are going to do is that I'm going to work to keep the tension high. I'm going to try to keep the weight semi-heavy. On the days that aren't an arm day, I'm not really going to train them like with a lot of volume or a lot of weight. It's more to just put blood in the muscle. So with that being said, tomorrow's arm day definitely will not be extensive as today, but it's another way to just say, hey, we're forcing you to have this blood in here. I want you to recover, but I'm still going to work you hard. So just constantly putting work in on the arms. And they've gotten stronger in certain other movements like pulls and pushes and all that. So almost Ramadan, like we're literally like 2 weeks away, I believe. So I'll calm that down and then I'll pick it back up the month after. But so far, I've been happy with the results. The arms look like they're filling out a little bit more. I know that's probably because of inflammation, but in any event, we're gonna get started. Gonna slam it real hard and get out. This is not gonna take very long at all. So without further ado, let's get rocking and rolling. All right, guys, you see me doing the John Meadows special where you use two different single arm handles to do a press down. It really affects the outer hair of the tricep. I did that, but also I switched it up and also did rope press downs. I can't really use a lot of heavy weight on here. I mean, I went heavy for this movement, which that was about 35 on the Life Fitness stack, which is quite heavy. But as you can see, I only marginally went up a little bit heavier when I switched over to the rope. So I just want to make sure I made that delineation for you guys that if you're doing multiple sets of press downs, it's actually okay. And I recommend different type of grips. So if you're doing 4 sets, 2 sets with one grip, 2 sets with another. Now we're going to move on into my other favorite exercise, which is the tricep dip. And I like this particular one a lot because it allows me to just really sink in there and get a nice full stretch in the triceps at the top. But I'm going to dive into this right now. All right, so these sets I'm doing with 2 plates in the 25. It's heavy, but it's not. But I think within the context of what I'm doing, multiple arm workouts a week, even if they are just small in stature, the fatigue accumulates. I get a pump so much quicker. But also I don't handle as much weight as I normally would. I have the ability to do 3 plates on this, which for some ain't shit, but for me it's a lot. So there's only 2 in the 25, and I'm only gonna do about maybe 6 to 8 reps here for a couple sets and then move on to the next exercise. But keep in mind, when you're doing multiple arm workouts a week, that accumulating fatigue is going to set in. All right, we got single arm press downs here coming up, and if you made it this far, you're probably wondering, why are there redundancies when it comes to my tricep training? Well, number one, there's not a whole lot to tricep training, right? It's basically you're pressing down or you're extending. So everything is a variation of those two kinds of movement, right? Also, the reason is because extensions will be my last exercise. Extensions, after years of doing them, have made my elbows hurt. For some reason, I thought I was Kevin LeBron, could do 3 plates, 3 25-pound plates per side on the easy curl bar and the tricep extensions. And you get a few reps, and you do that over a repeated effort, repeated time, and time again, and it makes for bad elbows. So they're not awful, but adding in on top of that competitive bench pressing. And how do you increase the bench press? Make your triceps stronger. How do you make your triceps stronger with the bench press? Extensions. So some more single arm press downs to get the elbows nice and lubed up, and then I'm going to dive into some tape presses, and we'll go from there. And like I just mentioned previously, this is just another variation of a press down to get my elbows warmed up. Now, what I do want you to understand is that, see the way that my body is angled away from the machine? I'm still getting a pretty good stretch in the tricep despite me having that press down sort of movement. So while it's not a pure extension, I put in some quote unquote extension like properties, meaning that I do get a good stretch because it is coming across my body. So that tricep is going to stretch, and then when you press it down, obviously it's kind of a press down affecting those heads of the triceps. So this is something that I do just to really lube up my elbows even more, because by the time I got to tape presses, they were pretty warm and they were ready to go. So that was a plus in my book. Moving on here, the tape press is probably the best tricep exercise that you're not doing right now. This was made popular by Dave Tate when he was training at Westside Barbell, and it's recently caught fire, I'd say, within the last 5 to 10 years. So you just basically take it and you're gonna bow out your elbows, and you're gonna make sure you get a good stretch in the triceps. If you can really do this movement kind of heavy, as you can see here, this is about 30 pounds, you'll really get some really strong and filled out triceps. This is probably one of my favorite tricep stretching movements. It is a learning curve, so I recommend that you guys do work on that learning curve, but I feel like this and JM presses are ones that will really stretch out the triceps and really fill out the arms when it's time to put on that t-shirt. So add those into your arsenal. Now we're moving on to biceps, and quite simply, we're just going to warm up the biceps with some cable curls. We're going to do about 4 sets of 20 reps just to get it set for the work that's involved. I like to use a short bar. I like to use something that allows me to just have it shoulder width apart, and I just like to have a nice fast pumping movement, just trying to wake up the biceps and make sure that they're going to be ready for the work ahead, which, as you can see, as you will be able to see, is not going to be easy at all under any circumstance. All right, now that we got the warm up for biceps out the way, time for the extended set of dumbbell curls. This is an old school technique that a lot of people don't do anymore. I'm only going to run the rack up, so I'm going to ascending weight. I'm not going to run it back down. So the reps are going to vary, but I'm going to start at 20 pounds and work my way up to as heavy as I can go in 5 to 10 pound increments, and the reps are going to decrease. And when I get to the final weight, that's where I'm going to stop. I'm going to try to grind out as many as I can at that final weight, and then I'm going to move on to the next exercise, and we'll be done with arms. So this should be a good one. All right, so this is something that is not really done these days, but I wanted to go ahead and do it. Now, I know the first thing you're going to say is, Larry, you're swinging. I don't believe in robotic movements. I believe in using movement and, not using a whole ton of it. But as you can see, the way that I am curling, the bicep is getting all that pressure, and I'm flexing at the top. So it's kind of hard to explain when you're seeing it. I've had numerous people say, you're swinging, you're swinging, you're swinging. And not really. I'm really just rocking and leaning my body to one side. And as far as dragging my arm back and pulling it up, it's not removing that much tension from the dumbbell. I mean, I'm working my way up to 60s and then worked my way back down, actually. So when I got to the 50s and 60s, my biceps were already a little bit wrecked. But with that being said, I am a fan of body English during curls, especially heavy curls, especially when my arms are already pre-fatigued a bit. I just want to get the reps in, and as long as you can control that eccentric, you're not going to pop a bicep. So understand that when I talk about body movement, when I talk about body English during a movement, it is always to put pressure and keep pressure on that muscle when we're approaching failure. Remember, guys, I don't train with a partner, so I don't have that advantage of having somebody helping me squeeze out a couple of extra reps, right? I just don't. So movement is my way to do that. And I also, again, am not a robotic trainer. I don't believe in staying stiff during movements most times. I do use a little bit of body English, and that's okay. Everyone's going to have their own way to train. This is mine. It took me years to get comfortable with explaining myself, and I still have to explain myself to a point because people look at bodybuilding as very much a binary thing and not an art. That's why we see so many crappy physiques today. But in any event, this is what I did, and this is how I did it, and again, worked my way up and worked my way back down. So definitely there's going to be some body English there as I'm working my way down to these lighter weights. But if you get the opportunity to try movements like this, or rather intensity techniques like this, I highly recommend you do it, because it could be the thing that breaks you through to your next growth spurt. And you don't have to just you can do ascending sets for chest, for back, for legs. Just know how you're going to use them, in what context you are going to use them, and make sure that you have your recovery at the forefront when you do something like this. All right, run the racks are done. I wasn't supposed to go back down. The plan was to get up to the top weight and just stop and move on to the next exercise. But that's the thing about the pump. It feels great. Y'all gotta get one. Y'all gotta get one. All right, every morning you gotta get one. But in any event, sorry, I got a little Tom Platzy there. Like I said, I didn't mean to do that, but going back down is generally the old school way of doing it. So, hey, I just showed my age and I went right back down. The key is to this is that you can't do your normal amount of reps. So whatever you think you can do with dumbbell curls, just cut it in half and then just run that rack up and get as heavy as you can and then come back down. I like to rest 10 seconds in between each weight attempt. That allows for some ATP to get back in there, recover a little bit. But again, you're not using your normal rep range. You're cutting it in half. So even that brief amount of rest will allow you to recharge the bicep a little bit. Gonna move on to some incline cable curls and call it a day. In this last movement, you see is just an Arsenal strength bench set up for me to be able to do some seated curls with a stretch. Normally it will be incline curls, but I didn't want to do them incline for the simple fact the weight stacks touched when I tried it. So just sitting up at the front and then just letting my biceps come back a little bit and get stretched out. This is basically just as good as a standing version, and I felt like I was able to work a little bit harder. So there you go with the arm workout. We'll be doing this again this weekend, and I hope you got something from it. But until next time, guys, thank you for watching. Let me know if you got anything from it, and I will talk to you soon. Have a good one.